President Obama's former National Secretary Advisor, Susan Rice, has been a hot topic here because she's rumored to be one of the front runners to share the ticket with her co-worker, Joe Biden. So we're going to ask her about her. But first, we want to say welcome. We know that the last time you were here for your book, Tough Love. It messed me up. But our question for you right now is, do you know if you're in the running? Are you ready to do it? If someone asks you to do it, what's the scoop?
Well, first of all, thank you, Whoopi, and all of you for having me back. It's great to be on The View again. I'm honored and I'm humbled that I am apparently among those that are being considered for this important role. It's an extraordinary group of women, and I think any one of them would do a great service to the country in support of Joe Biden. For my part, I care fundamentally about one thing, and that is that Joe Biden win, that we win the Senate, and that he has the opportunity to govern with the strongest team possible. And I'm prepared to support him in any possible way that he thinks I can. And there's a variety of ways that could happen, but I will leave that choice to him. But I'm ready to help him win and help him govern if that's what he wants.
Okay. So, Ms. Rice, if you were to be the vice president, Republicans would come after you for the way you handled the aftermath of the attacks in Benghazi. Now, you got a lot of flack at the time for putting out what turned out to be inaccurate information about what happened. Is this going to hurt your chances? How are you going to deal with that? You know they're going to go after you with Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. What are you going to do?
Well, Joy, let's put this in context. What happened in Benghazi was a tragedy. In 2012, 4 brave Americans, including our ambassador, were killed in a terrorist attack. 8 congressional committees over the next 4 years investigated every aspect of Benghazi, and not one of them found that I had done anything wrong. Not one of them found that I had deliberately misled the American people. But I don't doubt that the Republicans will use this, and they'll attack whoever is Joe Biden's choice to be his vice president. But let's be honest about what this is. This is dishonest, and it's a distraction. Just to prove how dishonest it is, recall the fact that 3 American service members were killed in a terrorist attack within the last year on American soil, on a military base in Pensacola, by Saudi trainees who had been inspired by al-Qaeda. This happened on Donald Trump's watch. Not one investigation, not one process of accountability, no outrage. 4 Americans, Joy, were killed in West Africa, in the country of Niger. These were 4 American service members killed by al-Qaeda on Donald Trump's watch. Was there an investigation? Was there outrage? Was there accountability? No. Same thing in East Africa, where al-Qaeda on Donald Trump's watch attacked U.S. military bases. So this is not on the level. This is meant to attack and distract and deflect. And the main thing, Joy, that they're trying to distract from, whether they're attacking me or somebody else, is the horrific reality that under Donald Trump's watch, 150,000 Americans have died from coronavirus. 30 million almost are out of work, and our kids can't safely go back to school. That is the horror that we face now, and I understand that the American people are feeling that pain very immediately. And I think, frankly, that is of much greater urgency and concern today than the tragic loss of Americans in Benghazi.
Ambassador, I do want to talk to you then about the coronavirus, because President Trump says nobody could have predicted this pandemic, but the Obama administration did predict a pandemic, and you personally tried to prepare the incoming administration for something just like this, leaving essentially a pandemic playbook that warned of this type of virus happening. So who is really to blame for the abysmal response here and the death of 150,000 Americans?
Well, Sonny, yes, everybody who knew anything about national security, global health, understood that a pandemic was inevitable. I write about it. in my book that we were just talking about briefly at the outset. We prepared the incoming administration with a Pandemic for Dummies playbook and a tabletop exercise and so many other briefings. So the fault here, the tragic loss of 150,000 Americans and counting, is on Donald Trump and his gross mishandling of this pandemic. He said it would go away. He likened it to the flu. He said, that it would be fine to reopen our states prematurely. He's urged kids to go back to school in communities where the virus is raging. Every step of the way, Donald Trump has put his own personal political interests ahead of the health and well-being and the economic security of Americans. That is why this tragedy has been as bad as it has been. And if anybody has any doubt about that, look at many other competent countries in the rest of the world, in Europe, in Asia, and elsewhere, that have handled this in such a way that their kids are going back to school, their economies are reopening, and the numbers continue to go down. That is not what's happening here.
Well, with the president trailing in recent polls and a majority of Americans disapproving of his pandemic response, President Trump is banking on a vaccine for the coronavirus to get him reelected. Now, how realistic is that by November? Some aides say without it, they have no chance at winning. What do you think?
Well, look, Sarah, obviously all of us want to see a vaccine as soon as possible. But we have to be realistic and understand what is the reality. The reality is that, according to the experts like Dr. Fauci, the best case scenario, if everything goes exactly according to plan, which nothing has to date in the pandemic response, the earliest we could have a vaccine that is beginning to be ready for dissemination, distribution, is the end of this year, early next year. But let's understand also that even though Donald Trump may come up with a big pronouncement in October, even if the vaccine is available in early 2021, it's not going to be available to over 300 million Americans simultaneously. It's going to take months to distribute and roll out. And if we can't even test people, it's hard to see how we will efficiently, under Donald Trump, vaccinate people. But the other aspect of this that I think many Americans don't understand, even once we have done the very hard work of getting Americans vaccinated, which is critical, and if done thoroughly, can help us open our economy sustainably, we still need the vaccine distributed globally so that people around the world have that protection. Because if they don't have that protection, the virus can mutate and it can come back in a different form and infect all of us here in the United States again. So this is not just a U.S. challenge, it's a global challenge. And unfortunately, Donald Trump and his administration have been AWOL on global leadership on so many dimensions, but particularly with respect to the pandemic, pulling out of the WHO and basically saying to the rest of the world, go it alone. But there is no go it alone with a virus, because viruses don't respect borders, which is why we're in the situation we're in today.
So true. So